My mother. I think God laughed when he put my mother and me together in this life because my mother has a very strange cognitive associative way of taking a leap from one idea to the next. And I am a very literal-minded person, right? And I do what I'm told. And this combination really ended up getting us in trouble. So, for example, when I was about 6 years old, I told my mom that I wanted a dog, right? I had a guinea pig. My mother told me, just put your guinea pig on a leash, take Brenda out for a stroll. It'll be just like you have a dog. I was brought home by the police because I think they assumed that I needed to be wearing a helmet. But neither my mother nor I understood what had just happened. What had just happened was a manifestation of the fact that I don't have siblings, okay? Only children, one of the things that is the real tragedy of being an only child is you don't have somebody to check you as you are about to walk out the door with a guinea pig on a leash, a redhead with a hand-cut bob, right? Yeah, so I think another thing that a sibling could have helped me with were like moments of lingering confusion in my childhood. Like I knew, if I knew one thing, I knew that I hated chocolate. Okay? This was because what my mother gave me and told me was chocolate was carob. Carob, anyone? Carob? Okay. So you have a child who's already a little bit weird and probably not socialized all that well. You send her to school, you hope she makes friends, right? And when a boy gives me chocolate for Valentine's Day, I go, yeah. So perhaps I should give you a little bit of context here, because probably right now you're thinking, like, Anna, everybody's family has these associations, right? Parents tell their kids things like, the child wouldn't eat their vegetables, so they tell them that their, zucchini is just like cupcakes. And, like sometimes you run out of things, right? So you have to put orange juice on your cereal, or you put ketchup on spaghetti, right? Which we've all done. But in my family, when my mother was making tuna salad and she was out of mayonnaise, she thought eggnog has eggs. This taught me to ask questions, right? So children know to ask why. I would ask who, what, when, and where. What are we eating? When did you make it? With what, and where, and how? Maybe I need to give you an example that's not food related, right? So these examples of things that you learn when you're an adult that are things that are unique to your family that you didn't really know were all that unique. We have a thing in my family where each of us has a celebrity that is like our friend, right? Like when I call my mother and I ask her how she is, she'll tell me her day, and then she will tell me what happened on Everybody Loves Raymond. Because she assumes that I need to know what happened to Raymond today, because Raymond is her friend. When I was a child, Sting was my friend. Sting's life was my life. His successes were my successes. His tragedies were my tragedies. So when I went abroad, I lived abroad when I was in college in Costa Rica. Now this was pre-internet now, for a little context. My mother sent me a letter to inform me of the sad news that Sting had gotten divorced. Now, I experienced this as if this had been my family friend. I grieved for him. Of course, the only CDs that I had brought with me to Costa Rica for the year that I was there were Sting CDs, so I was melancholic for the greater portion of a year for my friend. When I came home to American pop culture to learn that Sting had not, in fact, been divorced while I was gone, and I tried to track back the steps that led me to thinking that he was, I recalled this note, and I asked my mother, "Did you send me a letter saying that Sting got divorced?" And she said, "Oh yeah, album he released, Soul Cages, the lyrics were very sad. Right. So, that happened at a critical moment for me in college. I was an English major. I learned from that incident that you don't just need to ask who, what, when, where, and why. You need to ask how. How do you know this? How? Sting is divorced? How do you know? How? Critical thinking skills is what got me into graduate school. If any of my students were here tonight, they would tell you that my repetition of how do you know what you know haunts them in their dreams. I have read it on more than one course evaluation form. How do you know what you know? But it's more than that, right? My mom gave me the challenge of a lifetime, knowing her as I do and how her brain works. Making her laugh is challenging. And this is the challenge that gets me out of bed in the morning. I want to make her laugh like I want to make nobody else laugh. It's hard. You have to figure out how she thinks. Like any comedian, right? We welcome a challenge. Making my mother laugh is challenging but so satisfying. When she sees a particular set of ideas put together, she'll guffaw, like from her belly. And I think this is because she has comic genius in her blood, right? So like, I've talked to you about these associative leaps that she makes. They are often comedic brilliance, okay? So I mentioned this trip to Costa Rica. She came to visit me during that year and came and stayed with me with my host family, with Doña Maria and Marlene. And we had a very formal neighbor that would come some mornings for breakfast, Don Manuel. You had to call him Don, like he's so formal, right? He comes to breakfast in a suit and tie, and we're having breakfast. It's my mother's first day in Costa Rica. And Doña Maria says to her daughter, Marlene, ¿cómo amaneció usted? This family uses the formal at breakfast. Marlene gives the answer. This is the ritual that happens at the breakfast table every morning. How did you sleep? And then you answer, yo dormí como una roca. I slept like a rock. We come around the table, we turn to my mother. Doña María Francesca, ¿cómo amaneció usted? My mother says, yo dormí con un roco. Everyone turns to Don Manuel, not going to make a face, not going to say anything, but what my mother just announced to the assembly at breakfast was that she slept with a dirty old man. So I think what this really gave me is not only attunement to where things might go wrong, but I'm actually really uniquely able to recognize when things go right. And I uniquely celebrate these moments. So I'm currently writing a book right now, and it's about career paths for linguists, all right? Yesterday, I was meeting with Mark Okrand, he invented Klingon, people. He's one of our best linguists. Yeah, it's exciting, it's exciting. This man has been interviewed by hundreds of people. He's on Wikipedia, he has a Wikipedia page. I told him something about his own story that he never noticed. That his story is this series of things that could have gone. They really could have gone one way or the other. But I celebrate these like moments that could have gone very badly, but they went well. And because of that, and because of that, and because of that, and because of that, he ended up inventing Klingon. But it's really, it's a celebration. And he told me, it's gratifying to hear you say that about me. But he had actually called the meeting yesterday because I had made some associative leaps that were troubling to him, and he actually was a little bit worried about how I got from one idea to the other, and I explained to him that this is kind of just how I was trained to think. And he told me that makes life more interesting, and I'm not going to argue with the man that invented Klingon, people. Thank you.